Let's go to Teanau Tuiono.
I rise on behalf of the Greens to support this bill tonight. And as I was going through the Select Committee report, I could see the work done by the Select Committee. They'd kind of come to some agreements on the different, clarifying the employment arrangements and entitlements and trying to get the legislation into a good place and acknowledging the words of Camilla Bellich, the work of the Select Committee there. But what I did want to hear was the reasons why the government parties, or at least what I've only heard from one government party so far, are not supporting this bill. Mr. Speaker, we heard that one of the reasons they don't want to support this bill is because it could compromise a thriving competitive marketplace. It's an affront to personal responsibility and competitive enterprise. And my first submission tonight is you can have all of that without ripping people off, Mr. Speaker. You can have all of that without ripping people off. And there was some talk also there around accessing civil law and using those processes in order to find justice for workers as well. But that's expensive. Those processes are expensive. If you're a low-wage worker, a migrant worker, and some of us around the house come from some of those.
The answer to no, it's not being voted on. It's an interrupted debate, hence why we're doing an extended series on it, because this has personally affected many people.
Yep.
Yeah. New Zealand First have not actually done a vote yet.
Yep.
And they haven't done a speech because it got interrupted at 6 out of 12 speeches.
Yeah, and it's not just migrants this is affected, it's also affected New Zealand citizens. New Zealand-born citizens. You know, it affects everyone.
Yeah.
Families you get here, maybe your English isn't so flash, maybe you don't have access to all the lawyers and all that other kind of stuff. What is your pathway for justice? What is your pathway to make sure that the money that you worked for, that you get to keep? Because I think that's something that people across Aotearoa would support, right? You work a hard day, you get your dollars, and that's your money, that's your putia, those are your wages. Mr. Speaker, I do want to just backtrack and acknowledge Ibrahim Omar from the last Parliament, who in that first reading talked about his own experience, his lived experience of being exploited, his lived experience of many migrant workers, of many low-wage workers, where there is definitely that imbalance. And so I do want to acknowledge Ibrahim Omar and also Camilla Bellich, who was shepherding this bill through the House at this particular time, because this is an attempt to actually rectify that imbalance. One of the phrases that I heard there that we need to encourage, I think the words were the culture of employment and employee relations. I might have got that wrong, but it was around that kind of thing as well. Well, you can do that by making sure that there's stuff in place so that people can get their pay. And that's something that we also need to think about right across what's happening around Aotearoa right now. If the culture of employee, and employment relations is something of focus for the government parties, you've really got to work at it. You can't just be focusing on the whole enterprise brigade. You've got to be thinking about the workers. Because I've been watching the number of jobs that have been lost just here in Wellington, around about 5,000, 6,000 now. That's the brain drain. They're going to be jumping on planes and going overseas. That speaks to the lack of trust in terms of that culture. We just had Woolworths workers walk out on strike as well. That points to that lack of trust in that culture. The way that you improve that culture is by supporting bills like this. And as Camilla Bellich said earlier, it is a simple bill. It is a simple bill, particularly for those low-wage workers that don't have access to flash lawyers and civil law and all this other kind of stuff. Mr. Speaker, I want to acknowledge the differing view of both the Labour Party and the Green Party in the Select Committee report. At least there were some opinions that we could think about and dissect as we walk through this bill. And here acknowledges that there are many similar jurisdictions to New Zealand, such as California, Victoria, Queensland, Norway, and most recently the Commonwealth of Australia, who have in recent years passed legislation criminalising wage theft by employers. And also additionally, that this bill received 84% support to the Select Committee. So it's not like this is a new thing that's been pulled out of the ether. It is happening in similar-sized jurisdictions. And so my question in terms of the contributions which will follow from me tonight is, we need to acknowledge that this is actually an issue, that there is a power imbalance between employers and employees, in particular low-wage workers, in particular migrant workers, and we need to hear clearly from government benches what is going to be done to reconcile that, what is going to be done to make sure that balance is brought into balance. So, Mr. Speaker, we will be supporting this bill. There needs to be more work done around job security, around making sure that job security and all of those other sorts of issues. And part of that is, of course, supporting the Labour Inspectorate, making sure that they're fully resourced. If there is exploitation happening, we need to make sure that the people that go out to check on that, to actually get into finding out whether the exploitation is happening, the actual resource to be able to do that. That is a solution that I would like to see from the government benches in terms of addressing the imbalance between employers and employees. Mr. Speaker, the Greens support this bill.
Thank you, Teanau. You have kind of helped relieve a bit of rage. And I can tell you right now, this rage ain't just in front of the cameras we are. This is in the whole production team. You know, and I'll probably say the rage is probably from various viewers who don't even know how to type out their rage. It's it's definitely going up there. Should we move on to Punjit Palmer?